Hi, this is LadylexUK and this is a tutorial for Dreams. I'm going to be doing a game mechanic today. I recently played the game Porto by Cubic Sphere. It features a little robot and he has to make his way through a series of rooms and platforms by standing on pressure pads or by putting a block on a pressure pad, multiple blocks, multiple pressure pads, allow him to move through the game. So it's a puzzler. And it's not remixable, so I've had to try and work out how he might have done it. I don't know exactly how he's done it, but this is my method. You might have another method yourself. There are lots of ways to do things in Dreams, so this is not necessarily the definitive way of doing it. This is just the way that I have done it. I've tried to keep it as simple as possible. So let's go into play mode and see what I've built. So here is my mannequin. I'm going to possess him. Right, I want to get through this door, but the door is shut. So if I stand on my pressure pad, there we go. The pressure pad has gone down, and the door goes up. And I have to keep a weight on that, otherwise I still can't get through the door. So here is my block. I'm going to walk up to it. It says triangle to pick up. So I've now picked it up, and it now says square to drop. So I'm going to line myself up with that, drop it, and lo and behold, I can now get through the door because I've dropped a block onto it. Right then, let's see how I've done that. First of all, let's do the pressure pad. This is just an ordinary cube. I sort of sunk it slightly into the ground. And I've stuck a microchip onto top of it. So let's open that up. Right. I've got a trigger zone, which is linked to a NOT gate and a counter. And the counter is linked to 2 keyframes and a node. And that's the pressure pad. It's a very simple one. Now there is a pressure pad available that Media Molecule made. It's a lot more complicated little brain. This is a nice simple one, so you can add this to any of your shapes that you want to make. So you could design something really nice and do this with it. Right then, trigger zone. Let's start with the trigger zone. I've put my trigger zone as a cube on top of my cube, so you have to stand in this area in order to activate the trigger zone. And if I open up the trigger zone brain, you'll see I've chosen labels. So it's going to detect any objects that has a particular label, and I've chosen friend and object. So it's only going to detect things that are friend or object. And I've stuck, if I go into there, no, not that one, not sculpture, the blank puppet, there we go, blank puppet label, he's labelled as friend. And if I go into my block, this is selected to be an object. Most of the time these labels are blank, so you should be able to define whatever you want, whichever objects are going to be suitable for him to pick up and place, and just label them up as objects. And any players in your game that you could possess, you just label them as friends. It's as simple as that. So it's going to detect either the player or the object. Right, when it detects either a player or object, it's going to turn this counter and add 1 to it. So that we've got a standard counter with just a target value of 1. So what we're creating here is a Boolean, basically. We're saying it's either on or off. It's either 1 or 0. The trigger zone, when it's not detected, when you're not detected by the trigger zone, it's going to reset that back to 0. So it's a 1 or a 0, an on or an off. When it is on, it's going to set off these 2 keyframes, and I've also got a node here. So this keyframe here, that animates the pressure pad. And all I've done is I've moved it and turned it red. So let me just show you how I did that. So we'll take that out. I'm going to put a new keyframe in, like so. and we're going to grab our block and we're going to move it into the ground a bit like that, and then I'm going to go into its tweak brain and I'm going to tint it red and then stop the recording. There we go. And then we're going to add that to the on. So when I stand on that, that is going to go down. And this is the door. All I've done is to do a keyframe of moving that up. And if we look at its brain, we can see I've got a slow power up. So that's going to slowly move up to its current position. But once it's got no power, it's going to immediately go back down to where it was before. So there we go. There is our microchip. Let's just have a look. There's our microchip, and as you can see, it's got a output socket on it. So this is, I put this on so that when this is detected, you can attach wires to this to anything you like, any contraption, a light, some music, whatever you like. So let's actually use it. We'll put a music block in there. This is a piece of music. I'm just going to link that node to that. So anything that's not part of that microchip or part of that block, you can add to it. So now then, it's now going to play music when I stand on it. So there we go. There we are. So you can add things to that node because we've given it an extra, so that it's got an extra output socket to make it easy for yourself. Right then, let's have a look at how we pick up the block. As you can see from our mannequin, we've got a tag that I have attached. I've scoped in and attached it to his stomach there. And it's called pickup, that tag. I've named it pickup. You name it here, pickup. And this is going to be where our block is going to go to when we pick it up. So if you wanted it to go somewhere else, let's say you wanted him to carry it above his head, for example, you would put that up here somewhere. Maybe attach it to his head and put it up here. Right, here is our block. Microchip. There we go. So we've got, start off with, we've got a detect zone. This trigger zone here will detect our player, and if it detects our player, then it's got some options here. It's got a few AND gates. I've also got a controller sensor. So if we go to our controller sensor here, first of all, make sure you've got it to remote controllable. And I've wired it into some AND gates. So I've got a triangle linked to this AND gate, and I've got a square linked to this AND gate. Let's see what those do. So this first one says when you detect the player and triangle is pressed, then we're going to change this counter to 1, and that tells us that we've picked up the block. This AND gate says if we've picked up the block and we press square, we're going to reset picked up to 0 so that it will drop the block. This AND gate here says if you detect the player but this is not, it's not been picked up, then text display is triangle to pick up. So that's our little AND gate selection for the detect. Then for picked up, so once you've picked it up, it's got 2 keyframe things, it's got some text, and it's got a teleporter. So when you've picked it up, it will teleport our block to pick up. which is that tag, which is in the center of our mannequin. It's then also, I've got a keyframe which will change the block to non-collidable, so that it doesn't accidentally push over our player. And we've also got arms up. So if we look at there we go, there's our mannequin. That's the keyframes I've got. I've got him sort of like bent slightly forward, and his arms are up around the cube. It might be a good idea once you've done this part to do this part to stop without rewinding, so that he's got it picked up, and then move the arms into position. There we go. And that is basically it. It's a very simple little mechanic, actually, and that will allow you to pick up that block and drop that block when you want to. Now, there is a setting in the, actually I forgot to say, there is a setting in the teleporter which is quite important. It's these two here. You've got to match the target position and match target orientation. If you highlight these two here, then that block will follow your player as he turns. If you don't click on this, then the block will stay in position. It will revolve, and it will try and keep in the same orientation it was in when you picked it up. So you need to click on that, otherwise it doesn't look like he's picked it up properly. There we go. There is my mechanic. Have some fun with that. I think that's everything you need to know. Thank you for watching. Hope it was useful, and I'll catch you in your dreams.